I want to do a flip through here of my travel journals. This is my travel journal from 2017, and I had done some travel journals in years past, but not for the entire year, January through December, in one format. Now this is a wide from Planner Perfect, a blank journal that I got. At the time I was using a wide journal cover, and this format worked for me very well, and I'll talk a little bit about the process that I used and what worked and what didn't. So what I did here is, this is some stenciling that I did with embellishment, and I had just started using Cocoa Daisy, and so there's a little bit of Cocoa Daisy in here. There's some other bits and bops that I got. I think some of these things, like the tabs, were from a Michael's kit that I got, and this is from their free printables from Cocoa Daisy. And what at this time, because I had so much real estate here, I did a number of tip-ins and a lot of pictures of my dog. This is before our trip, and what I do is I use my Polaroid zip printer, which is very nice. These are the full size, kind of cut to format. At that time the app was having a trouble filling up the page, you know, the size of the photo, which now they've eliminated those issues that they had with the app. And this is a trip that we went to Door County, Wisconsin, and again with the tip-ins. What I do like about this size is that you can put travel brochures in here, and this is, I cut out travel brochure just so that I can remember where we went. From the travel brochure I cut out the boat that we went on, and I took their map and kind of drew that onto here to show where we visited. And it's also nice because I can put in the tickets from the trip, and I like to log the food that we had, the places that we went, because it's a good way to go back and see where we went, what we did, what we enjoyed. For instance, I ordered the full plate of Door County cherry French toast, and don't ever do that again unless you're going to split it with someone, because it's way too much. By the way, Door County, Wisconsin is known for their cherries and wines. And again, here's a travel brochure. This is an antique guide, and we logged in here where we went, where we didn't go, so that the next time we could go there. This was a scooter ride. I have a Vespa Sprint, which is 150 cc's, so it'll go 70 miles an hour. And I use this app that allows you to track where you went and print that out, which is really nice. This is the whole group of scooters that some of them actually were very big bikes compared to mine. Mine was the slowest one, but my maximum speed was 64. The average speed was 37 because we went through a lot of little towns. Again, a little travel brochure of where we went. And because this is a blank book, I did some mixed media in here, which this is okay. I don't necessarily like how it turned out. This page was better. This was from a magazine that I ripped out. This was from a map showing the area that I wrote in, and just using stencils. And what I used a lot of in here is the Tim Holtz Distress and Distress Oxides. I believe this is the oxides. So this was a major vacation that we went on. August 2nd through the 10th, and we drove from Wisconsin to New York State to visit family and to do some genealogical research. And along the way, I collected the brochures so that we could show where we went. And I like to take pictures along the way to show what we're seeing. And I was having an issue with the printer because what I like to do is when I get to the hotel, I like to print out the pictures that I want to use, because otherwise, especially on such a long trip, you get back and you're just kind of overwhelmed by the number of pictures that you've taken. So this way I can kind of weed through them each day. And I don't know if you can see this, but this says day 2. This is day 1. So what I was doing here was, before I left on the trip, I prepped the pages, because some people can deal with a plain white page, but frankly, I found that to be boring. And like I said, I was having a problem with the printer because it was showing this little spinny thing on there, which the app is no longer doing that. And that's my husband. We went to a watch and clock show at the second place that we stayed, because because it's such a long drive, we broke it up into to stop along the way to get a good night's rest instead of driving for 15 hours or however long it is. And here was at the Clock and Watch show. Then we stayed overnight, and the next day we went to Herkimer, New York, which I have family there, and actually have family going back into the 1700s is when my family actually came to that area. And so I have a little map that I print out, the Little Falls areas where we were staying, and it's on the Mohawk River. And the house that we stayed at, I know it looks kind of crummy here because they were in the process of painting, but it's a B&B. And the cabin that's here is actually the original cabin that was built in, I believe, the early 1700s, and this house was built in the 1800s. And I found out while I was there that my ancestor lived across the street from, my ancestors, I should say, lived across the street from this property. And I had a distant cousin that I got to meet, and we met through DNA, and we're actually, I think, 4th cousins, which is kind of cool. And that was her shop. And the next day we went, each day we picked an ancestor to go and see where that ancestor lived and, you know, things that they did. So we stopped along the way at a cemetery. We went to the Saratoga National Historical Park because my ancestor actually served in both battles of Saratoga, so yes, in the Revolutionary War. And it was really, really cool there. I strongly suggest, if you have any interest in history, to go to Saratoga National Historical Park. It's free to visit, and the staff there was really nice. Again, with the brochures, this one opens this way so that you can remember where you visited. Then we went to the Saratoga Monument, which is absolutely huge. It's just amazing. I know this is my husband and I way down the hill from it, and you can see just how huge it is. And I have fear of heights, so I didn't walk all the way up. I got up, I think, to the second window there. It's inside of a cemetery, or next to a cemetery. And this was interesting. I thought it was a mausoleum, but the sign said that it was a vault used to hold the deceased during winter months for burial in the springtime. Anyway, and then this was taken inside of like I said, we climbed up to about the second floor, and each floor has a different mosaic pattern, which was really kind of neat. And this is a huge brochure. This is all about the Saratoga battle. Then we went to two places. We went to the Fort Herkimer Church, which I have my 6 great-grandparents are buried there, and there's not much left of the cemetery there, but it is just really amazing to go there. And we went to General Herkimer's home, and there's another monument at his home it's just stunning to see. They're in the process of doing some more restoration work, at least they were then. And I'm a member of the DAR, and I'm a associate member of the Colonel Marinus Willett Mohawk Valley chapter. So I got to meet the ladies there. I went to their meeting, and I arranged to meet with I believe it's another 4th cousin that I met through genealogical research, and we matched through DNA test as well, so that was really neat. Actually, my 4th cousin once removed. And we went to the Oriskany battlefield, and it was the 240th anniversary, which was kind of the main purpose of why we went when we did. And there's information about the Oriskany battle. It was the bloodiest battle in the Revolutionary War, and my cousin and I, our shared ancestor, our 6th great-grandfather was actually killed in battle there. And let's see, I got to meet the former President General, the head of the DAR, Mary T. Wright, and she was so nice. Oh my gosh, she gave me a big hug because our ancestors served together in the Revolutionary War. And what I've done here is I've covered up, this is some personal information about my ancestors. We went to Ilion, New York, because my father was actually born and raised there. And my uncle is my only surviving family at this point in time. My dad's older uncle, he just turned 95, and he was so thrilled when I was there. He's like, you have to go find our house and see and take a picture to send to me. So I did that. He was laughing though because they have satellite TV on there, and he was like, we didn't have satellite TV back in the 20s. And we went to a gorge in Ilion that I had been to with my father when I was probably a teenager. So that was really neat. Some more pictures from the gorge. Then on day 6, we went back to the Fort Herkimer Church because I arranged the church itself, which I believe was built about in the 1740s and financed by one of my ancestors. It's closed to the public. They actually will rent it out for weddings and everything. It's because it's so cool. I mean, it's out of a storybook, but they can't afford to keep it staffed all the time. But I arranged to meet with the chairman of the association that takes care of it, and his name was Don, and he met me there, and he gave us a little tour. I mean, it's so tiny, but it was so neat because he explained everything, and he answered a lot of questions that I had about my ancestors' burial there. And it was also, it was built like a fortress, and it actually has gun holes in the side of the stone church. And he was pointing out, because they did work on it in the 1800s, and they blocked up a lot of things. The original entrance to the church was to the river, but in the 1800s they switched it around to the road. And so they blocked up, like this I think was one of the original doors. And he said that when they were doing the research, because during the work on it in the 1800s, they filled up these holes the gun holes. And so they found this when they redid it in the 1970s, and he helped finance and work on that project. So it was really neat that he was able to share that information. And then we took the Little Falls Erie Canal tour, and this is the view of the church from the river at its current location. The river was much closer to the church back then. Little Falls is such a cute little town. If you ever get a chance to visit there, I strongly suggest it. There's a lot of cool businesses there, and it's just really neat to see what people can do as far as building the Erie Canal. Here's the Erie Canal runs from, I know it runs from Albany all the way to Buffalo. So it's actually pretty cool. But yes, we took the tour, so we got to see the locks. We did some antiquing, and this was one of the locks that we got to see up close. This is one of the original locks. Day 8 was the day we went back, and I realized I had not taken a single picture of the wonderful breakfast that the B&B had provided each morning. I mean, so much food, it was just insane. So that was really cool. And then as we were leaving is when I was talking to one of the owners of the B&B. He's actually a priest in the local town, and he was explaining this is the doorway from that cabin right next to their home, the B&B. And that's when we realized that it was my ancestors that lived next door to this property. And I thought my ancestor more than likely walked through that door, which is actually pretty cool. And then he gave me some information to do more research. Then we have the trip home. Of course, we got home and my dog was just so thrilled. My friend had been watching him. So that was that trip. That was a long road trip. We put in a lot of miles. So then in August, we went to the Anderson Japanese Gardens in Rockford, Illinois. My husband was very funny because they had all these signs saying, don't go here, this area is closed. So he was taking pictures of that while I was taking pictures of these things. So that's him smirking. Then in December, we went to Walt Disney World for Christmas. And so I love to take pictures in the plane. This was, we had to get up early, pack the car, get going because it's Christmas. There was lots of Christmas cookies. We were so tired when we got there. We did go to Epcot the first day, and I was not sick. Not yet, okay? Warning, I always get sick when I go to Disney World. The next day, we went to Frontera Concina. Oh, I'm terrible. I can't pronounce. But the food was amazing. Oh my gosh, Rick Bayless restaurant is to die for. We went to the Pandora attraction. The Rick Bayless's restaurant is in Disney Springs, so there's a brochure on that. And Pandora is in Animal Kingdom, so again, I have those in here. And we got back to the hotel. We were so tired and didn't even realize we had a view of the fireworks for Hollywood Studios. And yes, this is what it looked like. It looked like the whole park was on fire when they were doing the fireworks. We could hear the music and everything. We always stay at the Swan and Dolphin. I highly recommend it. And so I always try to mark. I take a picture. Our room was 790 West, which was amazing. We had a balcony view. And I got to, this was kind of a little pier, and it was amazing because I had actually done this layout before I even knew that we were going to Disney World, because I did this earlier on in the year. And the shape of the dolphin is actually a pyramid, so that turned out pretty good. And my friend sent me a picture of the dogs sleeping by her fireplace while we were in Disney World. So day 4 at Disney. Was starting to not feel good, but we were still having a blast. I wasn't going to let myself get sick. A little Epcot folder. And day 5, because this was I think it was a 5-night trip. We went to Hollywood Studios. This is when I was not feeling well. And we went to Rick Bayless's restaurant again. My husband enjoying a beer, us eating. And day 6, we returned home. So here's my little setup spread for my carry-on for the flight. My husband having breakfast before we went, and then flying out. So that is my 2017 travel journal. I hope you enjoyed that. And again, I use minimal embellishments in here. It was mostly photos, and then just with the background, I used a lot of stencils. But I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.